What a game of pure Barclays it was. Chelsea winning 4-1. Somehow, Miss Jackson scoring a hat-trick. It had everything in the game. Red cards, offside, VAR decisions. It was probably, as a neutral, my most favourite game of the season.
I mean, it's undoubtedly the most bonkers game of football that I've seen probably since the Chelsea-Tottenham fixture when we ended up drawing 2-2 and Chelsea stopped Tottenham winning the league. It was wild. It had everything. It was overly passionate, overly aggressive, truly brilliant, a proper London derby. A fantastic result from my perspective. A hat-trick for Nicholas Jackson, words I thought I would never say, let alone say in a fixture like this. And I think it's really indicative of who these two teams are potentially are and who they are hoping to be. Chelsea won a game against Tottenham, which is massive. Tottenham displayed an element of resilience and also an element of pride and belief in their own setup. So it's weird. It's weird that a game can finish 4-1, Flav, and a pair of us can both take a lot from the game.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm gutted. Obviously, you don't want to lose to Chelsea or anyone 4-1 like that. But I take something away from how we performed with 9 men. Even with 10 men, you know, there was a deliberacy to what we were doing. And while we were open, it was indicative of how we've been playing since Postecoglou came in. And so that isn't going to change. That's just the way we play. And there may be an argument that we should be a little bit more pragmatic, especially when we were getting carved open a couple of times in that when we went down to 9 men.
I did feel Spurs did. Look,
we did all right.
And not many clear-cut chances, but you had more opportunities on the counter than I expected a team with 9 men to have.
I'm not critical at all of how we played with 9 men.
Yes, people, what's going on? Welcome back to another clip from the club. Remember, we are sponsored by Super 6, and Super 6 is the amazing free-to-play game. You have to be over 18 to play, but if you do play, predict 6 scorelines, get those correct, and you could win £250,000. And there's 2 opportunities for you to win this week, so there's no time to wait around. Download the app, the link's in the description below. Become a member of Super 6, get your predictions in, join our league, Club 23 is the code, and I'll see you over there.
If I will aim at criticism at Tottenham is our inability to control ourselves. Like Romero and Udogie, they lost control of themselves. Both red cards were fair. Obviously, one was too young.
I'm surprised. I'm really surprised you went, oh, that's fair, the Romero one. Because I felt it was really unlucky from him.
There's there's nowhere where he can put his foot. But you see those given all the time.
Yeah, you see them given in it.
So therefore, I understand that is a red card now.
But ultimately, when you're trying to win the ball, what you can't do, regardless of whether you win the ball, you can't end up scraping your studs down someone else's shin. Yeah. It's reckless and it's dangerous.
As a Premier League defender, you know that. You have to know that. And if you don't, then
Romero's someone that gets sent off quite a bit. So he should know.
I mean, I'm not taking. He's been he's been sensational this season, so I'm not going to.
And you see Van der Ven go down.
Yeah, well, that's all. That is the biggest frustration out of all, because this Van der Ven and Romero have been brilliant for us this year, and that's in terms of not being able to legislate for Postecoglou, not being able to legislate for things like that. You know, you see a young kid who's like 23, 22 years old. You think hamstrings are like the last thing he needs to be worrying about, really, but because so much of his game is about pace, it's always a risk. That's big. That's huge. And, you know, we now have to go into our next 3 games, including Villa, Man City away, without Van der Ven and without Romero, which means a centre-back pairing of Eric Dyer and God fucking knows.
And you then take into consideration that from the evidence of you going down to 9 men and still going for it somewhat,
nothing will change.
You're going to have a weaker defence and still go for it.
Yeah.
Against the likes of Man City.
Yeah, because fundamentally, in the long run, that idea, that belief, that
gain you more points than it loses you.
Yeah, under Postecoglou, it's not going to change. This is the way we play, and over 2 years, when this is drilled into these players that this is non-negotiable, this is the way we play. That will play out as a net positive, I think.
I agree.
I've spent the last 3 years watching the most boring, pragmatic football under the sun. I have no issue with what I'm seeing.
Yeah, being true to a style, not only is it quite admirable, I as a Chelsea fan as well, I'm always going to be a devotee of pragmatic football. But that's a huge difference between Chelsea and Tottenham fans. If there's a fan base in the country that are going to accept ideology and the commitment to expansive football, it's Tottenham. And Postecoglou demonstrated that today, regardless of the score, regardless of how many players were on the pitch, regardless of the way the game was going. Tottenham played to his system. And there's something admirable about that.
Sitting back is basically accepting that you, at best,
we would have got beat regardless.
You know what I mean? And
but sitting back, you might get a point. Going for the win, you get beat. I think so. I mean, you might get
95 times out of 100, we lose that game.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
rather than 100 out of 100.
But you had that great chance right at the end as well. You know, you had that great chance to equalise before it got taken away from you. So I think the approach... Yeah, but you could have... I think if you had that draw, then suddenly you batten down the hatches a little bit.
How do you feel? Sorry to cut you there. You've got Romero without Romero for definitely 3 games. You'd assume Van der Ven's going to miss those 3 games as well.
100%.
And probably more. But let's say no first choice centre-back partnership for Wolves away, Villa at home, City away. How do you think... Because before, we'd have looked at that and gone, 6 points until City, maybe. Now, how do you look at that? Wolves away.
I see Wolves away is I think we win that game. I look at Villa and how good they are in attack.
And especially on the counter.
On the counter, I can see issues there. But, and you know, City away is, I mean, what? Even with a fully strong team, that's difficult.
Booth, overall, if you look at this from a City perspective, are you quite happy here?
It's been the most amazing weekend for any City fan and for Guardiola. We've smashed Bournemouth, looked back to our best. Because I think City will always go back to not about the opposition. What are we doing as a side? Rodri's incredible. John Stones, all these players. De Bruyne's going to come back from injury. Then you add that on top with Arsenal dropping points, with Spurs dropping points, Liverpool dropping points to Luton Town. I think all 3 sides now they either have a mixture of not having the squad to compete with City. I think Spurs have got the ability to compete with everyone fully fit. And then they've got injuries. I think all 3 sides have now weakened. I think the Premier League title race is taken a massive hit to everyone except City. It's huge.
Yeah, Arsenal obviously losing. In terms of Tottenham, but before this game, you were quite fearful is not the right word, but respectful of the challenge posed by Tottenham. Are you still seeing that, or do you think that this result and everything that went with this result has kind of changed the way you feel about their title challenge?
It's changed, but I always said about Spurs, it's a bit like we saw Leicester City win the Premier League. Kante played every game essentially. Vardy, Mahrez, Danny Drinkwater, they're all fully fit. Important parts of the Ranieri machine. It's already over for Spurs in that regard because there's going to be players sent off and injuries. They might still be able to make up the points without those players.
Interesting though, Flev. Do you think Postecoglou's got enough about him to come up with a solution to this ridiculous hand he's been dealt?
Well, that's his job. That's his job. He's got to. Look, there'll be. He's got a lot of good grace at Spurs, obviously, and Spurs fans are going to be patient with him. We have to be, and we have to accept that the challenges that he has in front of him for the next 3 games, and however long Van der Ven is out, are significant. But I still think that he's got enough about him that will mean that while we will be perhaps less convincing than we have in the first part of the season, that we still be able to pick up results. We have to be, really. Injuries happen. This is a part of football. You have to find a way of rebounding and reacting. And as long as I see the same level of effort and togetherness in the team and those results perhaps don't come, then that's okay.
You've also got some goalie behind those defenders.
Yeah, he's a great goalkeeper. I mean, when we were in for David Raya, and there was murders from some Spurs fans talking about, well, why don't you just buy Raya? He's obviously Premier League proven, and then we've seen how he's played for Arsenal. He's not been awful, but he's made some high profile mistakes.
Certainly not as good as your keeper, though.
Yeah, and if Arsenal end up buying him for whatever it is,
cheap, innit? You sign him for?
Yeah, he's been good, but you don't want your goalkeeper to be good. You want him to be not there, basically. Not forget. You don't need to know that.
You don't want to notice him.
Exactly.
There we go.
What are we saying about Chelsea with a big win?
Yeah, big win. All everything that we could hope for, really. I'm over the moon with that result, and effectively our season starts now. Young group of young players, 7 players, 7 out of the 23 were under.
Raheem Sterling looked like a leader.
7 players on the pitch were under 23. So great experience for them. Over the moon from a Chelsea perspective, and Tottenham, we'll see how they end up.
I'll cheer you up. Mate. Listen, it could be worse. You could be a Portland Timbers fan, and they've just appointed Phil Neville.
Oh, Jesus. No, you're right, actually. I do feel better.